Welcome back to the You Do This For Why podcast. Coming to you every week, as always. My name is C. With me today is my co host.
I'm G, and you know, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Definitely funky. I'll give them that.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, I remember my little sister being really big into like New Kids on the Block. It was hilarious at the time. But so today's story is going to be, a story about a pope. So I want to preface this whole thing by saying, first of all, Leo the 14th is my man right now because anybody that makes Trump look stupid like that has got, my vote of confidence. I don't know if you've seen what has been said or whatever, but he's basically saying, "Hey, we should have peace through dialogue," and Trump is like, "You're a loser," and I'm like, "Dude, come on, man." But anyway, this particular pope was probably a little too good at his job. I guess would be the problem. Um, Again, I'd like to start by saying I'm not particularly religious, so this is not going to be a religion podcast. If you're, Christian and Catholic, even, I've got no judgments there whatsoever. So this isn't me bashing the Catholic Church. It's just some interesting observations that I stumbled onto. So the time period we're talking about is going to be late ninth century. So late 800s. It was a particularly bad time to be a pope. But I'm going to read you a little list, G.
All right,
Here's popes. Here's a list of popes that I found throughout history who got retired by way of murder.
that's one way to put it. All right.
Yeah, they got their jersey hung in the rafters, in bloody fashion. So the first one being Pope Pius the First, circa 154 A.D. He was martyred by the sword, according to the old sources. The claim of martyrdom was then later removed in 1969 by the church after they did a general like Roman calendar revision, which I don't even know. But so he got martyred by the sword.
It
That's an early one.
sounds
After
less
him,
like
we
he
have,
got martyred and more like he just got murdered, according to the church, anyway.
or it sounds like he lost a sword fight, depending on how you spin it, I guess. So next on the list, we got John the Eighth, murdered in 882 AD. He was poisoned and then clubbed to death. So kind of some Rasputin shit going on there. Where
Treated that
let's
man like
just
a rat. Jesus.
Yeah, right. Let's just exactly. So that's what your rat policy was back on our China episode. Was just poison them and club them to death. I mean, simple. Uh, Leo the Fifth in the year 903 was allegedly strangled. John the Tenth.
Allegedly. Hold on.
There's, dude, there is so much allegedly in this. It's like Letterkenny. I'm telling you. John the Tenth in 928 allegedly smothered with a pillow. 964 John the 12th, and this is probably my favorite one, was allegedly, I love how this one's allegedly, murdered by the jealous husband of the woman with whom he was in bed.
Well,
Allegedly.
that's just tale old as time right there.
He could have been beaten to death by Derek, who came in and caught him in bed with his wife, but I mean, that would just be all speculation, right?
Now, we can't prove
Uh,
that's what happened, but that's what we assume
it's what we,
happened.
that's what we assume. Benedict the Sixth strangled. That seems to be a very common way for a pope to get murdered. So, like, I just have like a neck collar or something. You know what
I
I
was
mean?
about to say, if you're a pope,
Like, there's got to be a
like,
way around that. Yeah,
put some
protect your
plating
neck.
on your neck, stay away from pillows.
Wu Tang, right? You got to protect your neck. John the 14th, 984, he died either by starvation, ill treatment, or direct murder. They're not sure about that one at all. Something happened to John, and they're not quite sure. Then in 1296, Celestine V was allegedly murdered while in post abdication captivity. Allegations blame his successor, Pope Boniface VIII. So he was in the process of abdicating against his will, and then they just murdered him in jail, is what that sounds like.
They're like, you know what? You gave up the papacy, but how about you give up your life too? Let's just
Right? But the good news is Boniface VIII in 1303, what is that, like 7 years later, was in conflict with Philip IV of France and was temporarily abducted by his forces. He died a month later, allegedly as a result of ill treatment during his abduction. So somebody went and got some revenge, right?
sounds like it. Yeah.
And so that's just a short list of like what can happen when you're Pope, because there's a reason that there's bulletproof glass on the Pope mobile. It
I'm
seems to be a
starting to
popular
think
target
that
over
popes need to
the
start
in,
carrying guns. That's what I'm coming to the conclusion of.
maybe so. But hey, we do have an American Pope now, so maybe
From
that'll be a thing now.
from Jersey of all places too.
You know what I mean? Maybe the Vatican will soon have a Second Amendment. I don't know.
They
That
can
would be insane.
playing
So
flogging Molly and shit in the Vatican at this point.
I know, right? You gotta love it, man. So the guy we're talking about today is Pope Formosus, and Formosus was born in 816 AD in the Italian countryside. He was Pope from October 6th of the year 891 until he died on April 4th of 896. So we're looking at about 4.5, almost 5 years, is as long as he lasted. He was succeeded by Pope Boniface VI, who only lasted 15 days. So again, it was a pretty rough time to be Pope. Like, could you imagine just like starting your job and your life expectancy was 15 days?
You're right. It's just
Crazy,
like, yeah,
crazy
well,
part is he either died of gout or just got, and the words that they used were forced out. And I'm assuming that means just straight up assassinated.
strangled
That
again.
that's again with the pillow, by scorned lover. I don't know. So when Formosus died, Boniface VI, the 15-day guy, was the one that replaced him. Then he got replaced by another pope that we're gonna find kind of had a beef with Formosus the entire time. So Formosus was raised in like the papal states near Rome, not in Rome itself. He was always active in the Catholic Church. He spent basically most of his life in seeking to be a man of the cloth. Like he wanted to be part of the Catholic Church and the Vatican
Right.
or the Holy Roman Empire or whatever. Those are two different things. But anyway, so in the year 864, he was 48 years old. He finally gets his big break, and he gets elected the cardinal bishop of the Diocese of Portus. Now, Portus was just not. It wasn't a huge honor, you know what I mean? It was kind of some backwater little diocese.
Right.
So, like, we're gonna give you one, but it's Gary, Indiana. You know what I mean?
Damn
So,
you.
I know, right? Ain't nobody got time for that. So, shortly after he got appointed, Pope Nicholas I, the active, current pope, sent him as a legate to be an envoy and to do like church business and ordain ministers in Bulgaria of all places. So our good buddy Formosus is now going off to be an envoy to Bulgaria, which I don't know that I dig that assignment too much, but I don't know, man. It could be pretty. So in 867, 3 years later, Bishop Boris I, the current bishop of that area of Bulgaria, requested that Formosa be named the archbishop because they got along really well. And Bishop uh, Boris I really liked Formosus. Like they got along really well. He felt he was good for the whole scene, right?
Right.
Well, here's the problem with that. Because what that would mean is if they did that, then he would be presiding over two different sees at the same time. the church definitely frowned on that. I was seen as a couple things. One, they looked at that like a marriage, like you can only be married to one woman at a time.
Right.
So if you got two, you know, two C's, then that's just not going to work. But Formosus was kind of trying to do that because he saw it as definitely an elevation because Bulgaria was close to the Eastern Orthodox, the Byzantine Empire. So there's a lot of influence he could have there. But that was kind of where things started going wrong for him. I mean, as you can see, this is going to go famously. So again, it was seen as a grab of power because the Bulgarian province was a lot larger and much closer to the Eastern Orthodox, near the Byzantines. So at that time, he also was going on diplomatic missions to France, like kind of building his political position. Right?
Right.
The church is not happy about any of this. Like they don't like any of the stuff that they're seeing from Moses already, because he seems like he's just the Vatican, and then you got the Holy Roman Empire, and they're like, one's the governmental arm and one's the religious arm. They're two separate entities, but they're not the same, but they kind of exist together. So Louis II died, and they elected his uncle Charles the Bald as the new emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. And dude, there's so many Charleses. Like I was clipping Charles out of the story because there's like Charles the Bald, Charles the Simple was one, and I was like, there was like Charles the Simple or Straightforward, and I'm like, dude, I don't know that I'd want to be known as that. You know what I mean? You sound like Forrest Gump. But anyway,
That's just like the
um,
70-year-old dude who works on cars in the trailer park who's just like, nah, your water pump's fucked. All right.
yeah, yeah, I guess it is.
How much is it going to cost to fix it? $50. All right.
All right. I think we've both been to the same dude. So Formosus was the guy that went to invite Charles the Bald, up to be crowned or whatever. But he quickly figured out that not everybody was a fan of Charles. So Louis II, the guy that had died, remember, had another uncle named Louis the German, because apparently they did the George Foreman route and just named all their kids Louis, but just gave them all an adjective, I guess. So Louis the German, which I would think Louis II would also be, never mind. He was in opposition of them crowning Charles. So in that resistance, some of the main supporters of it were Engelberga, and Engelberga is Louis II's widow at this point, right? So Louis II died, but Engelberga was a bad bitch in her own right, dude. Like it's the late 9th century, and she's like talking in court. You know what I mean? Like, and dude, but I mean, with the name like Engelberga, I just picture that she's got to be a big bitch, dude. You know what I mean? You don't name your daughter Engelberga,
No,
and she grew up to be tiny.
she's definitely like out there wrestling cows and bears and shit. Like,
Yeah, I mean, just like you were saying, Max Thundercock, you're born to be a weatherman. You know what I mean? Like you don't have any other alternative. If you're Engelberger, then you got to just be a bad bitch. So anyway, enough about her. I thought about doing like a little short on her just because she was pretty awesome. So tensions are pretty high at this time, right? And the current pope was starting to notice Formosus and what he was kind of doing. You know what I mean?
right.
And so he took this moment to do what any of us would do and duck out to France. Because remember, he had gone on those envoy missions to France, so he had connections over there already.
Right, and he was like, "Oh,
So that's
fuck you
that's
guys. I'll be over in Paris. I'm going."
yeah, and it's like there's a whole list of popes that have been murdered. I think I'm gonna hang out over in yeah. So a few months later, it was Pope John VIII was the one that was starting to eyeball him. He held a synod, which is essentially like a council or whatever, to order Formosus and any of the other officials that went with him. Because remember, this guy's not traveling by himself anymore. He's
Right.
got his entourage, like Mr. Spectre. So Formosus is like, nah, dude, I'm good. And Pope John the Eighth was like, uh, well, shit, I guess. So that led to Formosus being excommunicated from the Catholic Church for the first time. Wasn't his last time, which I think is amazing. Just that fact in and of itself, that how did he get excommunicated twice?
Well, you know, we've all been there.
Right? Right. I mean, I've never been fired twice from the same job, so especially not excommunicated from my job. You know, well, I mean, I've been excommunicated from my job, but whatever, man. So the grounds
Not
are
twice,
desertion
though. Well, that's
and him aspiring to be the bishop of Bulgaria. That was one of the things that stuck with him. Like, it's one of the charges that stuck. The other charges included opposing the emperor, quote, conspiring with certain iniquitous men and women for the destruction of the papal see. That sounds very formal. And also for, quote, despoiling the cloisters of Rome. And so this all happened in the year 876. And the years, again, don't really remember any of them, but there's definitely a timeline here that I would say it becomes important later, but only if you're super nerd. So 2 years later, in 878, the excommunication got reversed. So Pope John the Eighth was like, you know what? I'll lift the excommunication as long as you promise never to return to Rome or to exercise any of your priestly functions ever again.
sounds reasonable.
Yeah, and Formosus was like, you know what? I'll take that because excommunication is not great, particularly in that, that period of history or
No,
whatever.
that's basically just putting a sign on your back that's like, hey, I'm a godless heathen, burn me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a godless heathen in, vestments. Yeah. You don't want to do that. But crazy part was this was 878. They lifted his excommunication, right? So as early as 872, the church already started to consider him to be a candidate to be pope. But the current pope saw him as a rival, right? And he couldn't have that. But they speculate that that may have had something to do with his excommunication, and why they did it is
Well, you know.
because he was glowing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was on the rise, and this other guy was like, nah, no, no, we need to make sure something happens with this dude, because so you can see he's starting to get on that track. So
I will
that was
say,
about
it is funny how this story is still relatable in the fact of, like, if you're doing your job just a little too well, and then you decide to go on vacation, they will have problems with it.
yes, absolutely. No, that's exactly what happened. Because in 883, which was 5 years after he got excommunicated, or the reversal of his excommunication. So 76, he's excommunicated. 78, 2 years later, they lifted it, right? As long as he promises never to go back to Rome and never resume his functions. Then in 883, which was 5 years later, Pope Marinus I, a new pope, mind you, put him back in charge of the Diocese of Portus. So he's right back where he started. Older, a little wiser, maybe. Well, I don't know about that, but so fast forward at this point, we're going 3 popes in the future. 8 years later, Formosus was unanimously elected to the office of Pope of the Holy Roman Empire. And that's where his shit really started. Because
And
it wasn't
how
nearly as
old is
bad.
he at this point?
He was 48 when, well, they all be old as hell, dude.
Right. This is 872 BC, roughly, right?
Uh, no, it's AD. It's
Oh,
AD.
it's 80? Okay.
So,
It's still
yeah. So,
40 at
so
that
nine,
time
nine,
is still like being 190 today, though, so.
well, he was 48 when he got his first big break. And that was 864. And so if this is, what did I say it was?
870.
883.
Oh, 883, yep.
He'd be 67 years old.
Yeah, so he's fucking Methuselah, basically. Jesus
Dude,
Christ.
yeah, back then,
Yeah.
yeah, you could probably sneeze on him and he'd fall over.
He'll
So
look too
the
hard at
pro
the communal toilets and just have a fucking septic attack.
just die of dysentery. So Formosus had a bad habit of what they call concerning himself with other people's business. So naturally, the first thing that he did was got involved with multiple conflicts at the same time. Because I mean, you can't just do one, right? You got to go sticking your nose in everybody's business. So the first thing he did was he intervened in an argument in Constantinople where the leadership of the Eastern Orthodox Church had changed, and so he's not even Eastern Orthodox, man. He goes into calling the dispute. But the thing that he did do was he refused to reinstate any of the former clergy that had been ordained by the previous leadership. So he basically went into the McDonald's and fired everybody.
I like how he's just like, you know what? How about I
I'm
use the
helping.
power of Jesus Christ to help you guys out?
The power of Jesus Christ compels you to, you're fired. So the other thing that he did at the same time was there was an argument in France between Odo of Paris and Charles there he is, Charles the Simple, for the throne. So Formosus liked Charles the Simple over Odo of Paris. Like, because I mean, it's Odo of Paris. Like, I would rather have Charles the Simple than Odo of Paris.
Right?
So, anyway, so Formosus once again sticking his nose in something he probably shouldn't be in. Tried to get Odo to concede the throne so Charles could have it, but Odo wasn't having it. So he's already starting to piss people off in France. And everybody's looking at him at this point like he's still trying to do what he was doing before, right? Which
I mean,
is just
to be
consolidate
fair,
power. Yeah, so I mean he's not necessarily a grifter so much as like he's conscious of the politics of the whole thing.
I mean
And he's
that,
doing every
and it's pretty easy to piss off the French. Let's be honest here.
facts. Yep, yep. All you got to do is just not smell. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, so just after that, Formosa's got in another dispute. This one was between some crazy characters. Between Arnulf of Carinthia, which was the king of Germany at the time, and the current Holy Roman Empire, or emperor rather, Guy the Third of Spoleto. Now the Spoletans become important later. So this is where a lot of the beef started. And so Arnulf and Guy, so technically Arnulf will be considered the invader here. They had just duked it out at the gates of Ivrea, and Arnulf ended up winning that one. And so, Guy retreats. Arnulf was like, I'm good with this, man. You know what I mean? I came in and I kicked some ass. It's a good day.
Right.
But our boy Formosus didn't trust Guy or actually Spluidens in general. Like, he didn't particularly like him. So he was looking for a way to get Guy gone. Because remember, Guy's the Holy Roman Emperor. And so if Guy's gone, the guy that Formosus doesn't like, then he's going to have a lot better time. You know what I mean?
Right, he's got a little bit more leeway going for him at that point.
Yeah, and I think Guy knew that that's kind of what he was thinking. So Guy doubles down at this point, goes back home, and forces Formosus, who, keep in mind, is the Pope at the time, to crown his son Lambert as co-emperor. And I did not do the research into what co-emperor is, but I've never heard of that before.
I assume it's like a vice presidential
Yeah,
type of
but you don't have a
title.
co-CEO.
Well, I mean, you got CFOs and COOs. Those are basically the same fucking thing.
Yeah, I guess it's just different language designed to confuse you. Good point. Good point. So this was notable because it was a break from the traditional bloodlines. They had always been Carolingian, and now the Spoletans were trying to get in there, right? Because Guy had gotten in there, and now he's trying to make sure Lambert's recognized as well. So basically, he's trying to make sure everybody in his family is entrenched, so it'd be harder to take it away from him, right?
Right.
Does that make sense? And so, what does Formosus do?
I'm gonna go with runs away to France again.
No, he persuades Arnulf. Remember, Arnulf won up there, and he's just chilling. And he's like, "Hey, man, you're in Carolingian. Why don't you march down there to where God's at and put the whooping on him in his hometown?" And so he's literally talking to a foreign army or foreign military force,
Right.
trying to convince them to come overthrow the Holy Roman Emperor because he doesn't like him. And so I'm not saying like Formosus was like everything I read. I don't see him as necessarily a bad guy. He was more interested in just politics and personal gain than he was whatever else. You know what I mean?
Moral areas.
Yeah. So now you got that whole bloodline conflict. Arnold's marching in to go like fuck guy up or whatever. And so guy's wife Agiltrude, and I've never seen that name in my life, and I have not seen it since.
That is a
And
woman who has too many cheese wheels. That is
big old bitch, dude, big old
that
bitch.
is
Like,
that
yeah,
puts
no,
the
Agiltrude
entirety
was,
of Wisconsin to shame. Dear God. That is
dude. I picture like Danny DeVito's mom and Throw Mama from the Train. Ellen doesn't have any friends. You know what I mean? Like, I love that lady.
see, my first thought is like, Bertha's the most stereotypical. That's a big bitch name. It needs to be Agiltrude because holy shit.
Did she sound scary? But see,
You
Agiltrude
said
sounds
that
like a
and I
scary old
felt
lady to me.
you said Agiltrude and I felt my jowls get bigger. Like goddamn.
Like this, my spider sense went off. And then remember, we got Lambert. Lambert's co-emperor because they made Formosus come and do that, right? So there's some resistance going on there in Rome because they know they know Arnold's coming. And so at this time, Arnold, like I said, he was content. I don't mean completely content. Everything north of the Po River he controlled in Italy.
Right.
And so at this point, God the Third, Holy Roman Empire, shed his mortal coil, and they don't really say how. And then they put Lambert in charge. Remember the co-emperor?
I'm gonna go with shit himself to death.
Probably, yeah. So they put Lambert in charge, but Miss Agiltrude's helping him. And again, I just that lady's terrifying. I need to look more into her because she was one of the highlights of the story. Like, she just sounds nasty. So in 895, Arnulf finally seizes the day from Lambert, and he was crowned emperor at St. Peter's Basilica by none other than our boy Formosus, who was the one that put him there in the first place.
Under duress. I feel like that needs to be put him there under duress.
Right, right. So now you got Lambert, Agiltrude, and another soon-to-be major player, Stephen the Sixth. We're all watching this and just furious with what Formosus had done.
How the fuck do we have names like Agiltrude and Formosus and then also just a Stephen?
Right? Stephen always thinks like sneaks his way into the story somehow. Just like those hammers from that bag in our FedEx episode. There's always a Stephen.
Why do you need 18 Stevens? I don't.
I don't get it either. And so Stephen the Sixth was also on the fast track with the church. And he's been watching what Formosus has been doing this entire time. And he also happens to be Spoletan. So
That may not be the best idea to watch that guy for your career information to the papacy.
it was more a rivalry or an eyeball. And it wasn't quite Biggie and Tupac, but they knew of each other, which that'll become important later. But they weren't like outwardly beefing, but there was no love lost between the two of them.
Right.
So meanwhile, during the time that all this is going on, the Saracens try to invade Italy, just coming into the country. And so Formosus being the Pope, and remember the Emperor had just died, so he has a little bit more clout right now before Lambert really gets fully, his feet under him, right? He took a like hard line and a violent line against the Saracens. And his whole thing was just get rid of all of them. is very reminiscent of our current administration.
I don't want any Saracens in the country.
Yeah, no, it was old timey war or whatever. So finally,
Yeah, old
Arnulf,
timey war
remember?
was just a lot of let's kill everybody on that side, and now it's all like, hey, they got oil, so.
Yeah, yeah, for real, for real. So at this point, Arnulf, the guy that had just, the new Holy Roman Empire, the one that Formosus crowned and talked into, taking the crown in the first place, decides to go march on the Spoletans in Spoleto in Italy, but got struck by paralysis on his way and wouldn't ultimately be able to finish the job that he started. So I was like, wah, wah. You know what I mean? He's all like, he's got a head full of steam, and he goes, oh shit, I'm paralyzed. And they
What
don't say for
was he just walking down
for
the fucking path, and all of a sudden he was like, "Oh, my legs," and just fell over? Like,
oh my legs, I can't feel my body anymore. But I don't know, maybe thrown from a horse, or there's no telling,
oh,
man. They don't.
actually, I bet that's what it is.
That's the only thing I can think. Or was it that scene in friggin' that Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie where dude like slips on the floor or whatever and cracks his head on the tub? Just some random freak accident. Who knows?
Knowing the
So
amount of horse injuries that have happened throughout history, I would not be surprised if it was like he just got
for
bucked off his
real,
horse or some shit.
dude, I watched a guy get his like whole face like busted open because he was on the horse and the horse put his head down and he started pulling on the reins and then he leaned forward when he did that. And as soon as he did, that horse threw its head backwards, and I mean, his nose just went.
Oh, god damn.
It was
Yeah.
it was crazy, man. Like he got head butted by a horse.
Oh, like, I don't trust horses and their shifty little fucking eyes.
Which that was the day I learned to ride a horse because he clearly wasn't doing it.
Don't do what that guy did. Got it. All right.
Exactly. Like, please don't bleed on me. So then, April 4th, of the year 896 AD, Formosus died. The cause of his death was unclear. They never specified. He was replaced by Pope Boniface VI, who, if we remember, his reign as Pope lasted 15 whole days. Now, this is where the story would usually end, but not this one. This is where shit gets weird.
That's always a good sign. All right, I'm ready.
Yeah, yeah. So that was just setting the framework for what's about to happen. So after Boniface was out of office, once again, either died of gout or was ejected from office, who do you think they elected as the new pope? Our good old buddy Stephen VI, the one that had been stink eyeing Formosus the entire time. So, little side note on Boniface, the guy that was only there for 15 days, just because I thought this was interesting. Twice before he was pope, he was reprimanded for what they call deprivation of orders and was described by one historian as a quote disgusting monster, guilty of both adultery and homicide. I mean, not bad for 15 days, dude. Like if they elected a disgusting homicidal adulterous monster and it lasted 15 days, that's pretty good.
I mean,
So
if you, I guess if you're gonna be a disgusting monster, might as well try and take the papacy while you're at it.
exactly, exactly, dude. I did read an account of like, no, I think I've got it. I was gonna read it later. Um, so Stephen VI takes up the mantle now, and 9 months after Formosus died, at the urging of both Lambert and Agiltrude, remember that old bitch? They
Yeah,
had Formosus.
I know she makes a good fucking cobbler. I can't prove it, but
Yeah, I bet she does actually. She's probably the nastiest person to be in a room with ever, but I bet she makes a bitchin' cobbler. So, at the urging of Lambert and Agiltrude, Stephen had Formosus's remains dug up, brought back to the council, where he put on his own synod.
and Formosus was put on trial for his crimes. He was dressed in holy vestments and put on the throne and questioned. So, since he was very dead at the time, they appointed a deacon to speak on his behalf. And I can only imagine what that was like, dude. Could you imagine being that guy?
I I just
No, yes, I did. Well, like, what do you say? You're not even like high ranking. You got the Pope looking at you, and Agiltrude just stink eyeing you.
you're just like, "Ah, no, Your Honor, my defendant." Like, how do you even start the fucking sentence there? Just,
Yeah, it's just like some really crappy ventriloquism where you're like, I did it.
"I totally did the thing you're saying I did." I
I
don't
was I wasn't even listening, but I'm sure he did it. I did it.
Whatever you're accusing me of is correct. Just look at me. Skeletons are evil, we all know this.
So of course, Stephen VI led the interrogation. He was the one that asked all the questions, or the bulk of the questions, rather. He accused Formosus of perjury for lying under oath, even though I don't even understand how that works. If he's dead, then how is he perjuring? Like, think about that one for a minute. I was like, what in the hell?
I know you've been
How can he?
lying this whole time, Formosus, and the deacon behind him is just like, no, I would
Yeah, he's just
never.
right. He's just shaking his head no back there. Mm-mm, mm-mm. When I didn't lie. It just seems like such a crazy scene to me.
I
You know
feel
what I
like
mean?
it's a Wizard of Oz situation where they just got like a little fucking phone-ograph type, you know, megaphone situation going on, like the fucking two cans on a string. And one of them's just in the skeleton's mouth. The other one just
Exactly.
leads to a deacon behind a curtain.
You know, in that year, I wouldn't put it past him, honestly.
Like, you stand accused of crimes against the papacy. Like, ah, I'm
Just
evil. Like,
despoiling the clusters of Rome.
I just spoiled the shit out of them. Like, I don't know.
And so he got accused of perjury, of transmigrating seas in violation of church law. Remember that whole two seas thing we were talking about earlier? Because
Right.
remember, Stephen remembered that shit. Like he remembered that from, and he also was accused of serving as a bishop when he, in fact, was just a lay priest, according to Stephen. Even though he had been properly ordained, excommunicated, re-brought in, re-promoted, he fulfilled all the qualifications. But Stephen's like, nah, he's just an altar boy, man. He's just a lay priest.
Well, I mean,
So
to be
what do you think
fair,
the verdict was?
Formosus didn't have much to say in his defense at this point, so.
Like like we had had to guess what the verdict was. Which way would you go?
I'm gonna go with guilty here.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely guilty.
Now, if they had found him
Uh,
innocent, I think I might have flipped my desk. I'm not gonna lie to you.
like
Like,
what?
the fuck
Like
do you
why would
mean?
you? That would have been almost the crazy. No, it wouldn't have been. The story still it's got a little bit to it. So at that point, they took Formosus. Keep in mind, dressed in complete, papal vestments. They cut off his three fingers on his right hand, which were the fingers that he used when he did blessings, right?
Right. Well,
So they're
actually, I
taking
guess
away
he
his
hasn't even really been dead for that long at this point, has he?
not 9 months.
Yeah, so he's probably not even fully a skeleton at this point.
Yeah, there's like chunks of him, but so according to the accounts I read, remarkably well, you'll see, like remarkably still well put together. So I don't know,
Well, I
maybe
mean,
I was
yeah, he was a
talking
pope.
smack about
They tend
Formosus being
to
a nerd or whatever.
they tend to, do a little extra embalming on the popes.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, well, okay, so
Or they just keep their finger bones behind the altar, one of the two.
all right, here's a funny fact. So they cut his three blessing fingers off, right?
Right.
They had all of his acts and ordinations invalidated. So anybody that he had ever like, you know, promoted or whatever,
Oh,
they
now
nullified
hold
all
on a
that.
minute.
So
Yeah.
this is where upper management comes down and says, you know what, you're not a manager anymore because the guy that promoted you to manager doesn't work here anymore. They did a lot of that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but would that in turn also make Lambert not the co-emperor at this point, or?
Yep. Funny part about that is guess who ordained Stephen the Sixth as bishop?
Oh,
Formosus. So why in the hell would you bring that up when you know it's saying that
everything
he
you've
ordained
said,
me?
this is sounding more and more like something Trump's about to do.
That's what I'm saying, dude. And then when he dies is when shit goes all crazy. It wasn't all the stuff he did when he was alive, but I just thought that was interesting, right? And it adds a little bit of background to it. So they stripped him of all of his vestments. They just dressed him in layman's garb because remember Stephen had said, "You're just a layman,"
Yeah,
and they buried him in a common pauper's grave, like they just buried him in a regular grave.
this sounds like a
And so,
5-year-old,
yeah,
like the kid who didn't give him any cookies at class. It's just like, no,
pretty much.
actually, you never had any cookies, and everybody you
But it
ever
was
gave
kind
cookies
of
to was a bitch.
that's exactly what it is. But it was kind of like a quietly brewing thing over the years that wasn't like public or whatever. But they did not like each other, and so like I said, they buried him in a common grave, and that was the end of Formosus. Nah, I'm kidding. A few days later, Stephen had the body dug up again, had heavy stones tied to it, and had it cast into the Tiber River
Well,
just for one last middle finger to Formosus, right? And so it's not going great for our hero here.
it doesn't seem to be, no.
Mm-mm. But a short time later, his body was found by a couple of fishermen, and those fishermen started spreading the rumor that Formosus was down by the river performing miracles with this waterlogged, 9-month-old corpse.
I
And the
feel
public
like
caught wind of that.
if you're casting out the old pope like that, and then people are like, "Oh my God, he's down by the river performing miracles," that's
Dude,
less
wait,
of
they
a
literally threw him in the trash.
that's less of a he's actually down there performing miracles, and more of a man. This guy fucking sucks.
It's a miracle he's here, dude.
I
Like,
miss
didn't
the
they bury
old
this guy
guy.
already?
The
How did he
old
get
guy's
dug
in the
up again?
river. Let's just go fucking talk to him.
No, it almost kind of was that sort of thing from what I understood. So what happened is the public, like the peasants, caught wind of the fact that Formosus was down there performing miracles, and they deposed Stephen. They
I
went
pi-
and got him and threw his ass in prison.
I I picture it's just the same deacon who was talking for Formosus at trial, just down there holding up Formosus's body.
He looks exactly like John Cleese, because this all seems like a Monty Python sketch at this point. I mean,
Yeah,
doesn't
I'm
it
just
though? It really does. So not long after the mob came and got Stephen and had him imprisoned, like just a few days, Stephen would be strangled to death in prison.
well, he was a
So
pope.
so so remember when I read that list of murdered popes? I left one off the list. Stephen II died in the year 897 of strangulation.
What I'm learning is popes apparently have very strangleable necks. That's
I guess they must be like ostriches or something. You know what I mean? Giraffes. Yeah, I don't know, man. You can't make this stuff up. Like I saw this story and I was like, what in the heck? So December of 897, all this is blown over. Pope Theodore II held another synod, or the council, right, and reinstated Formosus to his former status. His waterlogged corpse was dressed in full pontifical vestments, so they redressed him up again.
they had to go drag his ass out of the river at some point.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah, and get him away from those fishermen. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just don't know. So he was reburied in St. Peter's Basilica,
I want to
which is
know
like,
what that
so
deacon
he
who
went
had
from
to
paupers.
testify for him feels about all of this. Like, he's just like, I don't know what's going on anymore. Like, they made
You
me
know,
talk for this dead man to convict him, and then they threw him in the river, and then they pulled
they
him back
never
out of the
explain
river, and then
what happened to that deacon. However, Pope Theodore excommunicated 7 cardinals that had also been responsible for what is known as the Cadaver Synod. If you look it up, that's what it's called, the Cadaver Synod. And so people went down for that, but they never mentioned the deacon. I'm
you know,
assuming he was just such a low level employee they didn't care.
either that or because of his cooperation, he got promoted to a cardinal and then immediately got fired again.
I could see that happening. Absolutely, absolutely. And so then in 897, the Roman Catholic Church passed the church law that stated that you could not put dead people on trial for the things that they did in life, which seems like a no brainer, but this had to happen for that law to be written. So to recap here,
Yes, let's do that because
he's, he stirred up a lot of noise while he was alive. He had the Holy Roman Empire or Emperor overthrown essentially because it kind of suited his purposes. Was trying to preside over 2 seas. Church didn't like that. So when he died, his rival Stephen, after probably murdering Boniface, because they say gout or was forced out. I'm betting you Stephen had something to do with that.
would
Then
not doubt it.
they let him lay on the ground for 9 months, dug him up, put him on trial in full vestments, had a deacon speaking for him, cut off the 3 fingers of his right blessing hand once he was found guilty, obviously, stripped him back down to layman's clothes, buried him in a pauper's grave. Then, for some reason, I still can't fathom, 2 days later, they dug him back up, tied stones to him, and threw him in the river. Which, I mean, I would feel like the pauper's grave would be like leaving well enough alone or whatever. But no, Stephen was hardcore. Then the fishermen found him, and then the miracles, and then they dragged Stephen out of the Vatican or whatever, put him in prison, and then some inmates strangled him to death a few days later. And now they've come full circle to reinstating Formosus, getting rid of all the cardinals that had anything to do with it, and passing a law that says, hey, man, can't put dead people on trial.
Right.
And so the takeaway from all this is no other pope, because when you're like the pope or whatever, you take a name. No other pope since then has taken the name Formosus. It's because every one of
Fucking
them
I
just
wouldn't.
want to distance themselves as far away from possible from being associated with such a controversial figure.
That'd be like coming into office and being like, "My name is President Nixon." It's like, oh fuck. Okay, well.
Yeah, I'm screwed from the get, right? Yeah, it's President Nixon. Yeah, sorry, it's my Vice President Pol Pot. You know what I mean? Like it's just got a bad connotation to it.
This is
Okay.
Secretary of State, Mr. Genghis Khan. Like, oh shit.
Oh no, not again. So again, I found that story interesting and just odd enough that I was like, "What? Like you did that for why?" Like, so that one really does fit. During the research on that one, which again was not super in depth on that one because I'm working on a much bigger and much like, oh man, the one I'm gonna do is the dude's a monster.
Right.
I stumbled on apparently there was a book written, and I don't have the author's name in front of me. I do apologize, but you can look it up on the Wikipedia page because this is directly from Wikipedia. There was a book called The Bad Popes, and there were what 8 of them that this guy covered. It was a historian. So first one, Pope Stephen VI, who exhumed and tried his dead predecessor, Pope Formosus,
This.
which obviously he's going to make the top 8 of like the baddest of bad popes.
I feel like he makes top 3. I'm gonna keep it real with
I
you.
don't know, man. And wait till you hear the rest of this list. This guy was onto something with his bad popes. Pope John the 12th, who murdered several people. So Pope John the 12th was just a straight up murderer. And keep in mind, like you can get away with like, a military action kind of murder as the Pope, but you can't just straight up like shank somebody.
Well, popes have urges too, apparently.
So John the 12th was like the Danny Trejo of the bad popes. So Pope Benedict the Ninth, this was probably one of my favorites. He was accused of what was called simony, which was accused of trying to sell the papacy,
Now,
like the whole thing.
was his cellmate Garfunkel-y, or?
I don't know, dude, because like Garfunkel. I see what you did there. But no, he just tried to outright sell the Vatican, like the whole thing. He's like, "How much you want for the whole thing?" Which I find fantastic, fantastic.
I'll
That
sell
you
you
just be
the.
like, you know what? I've aspired to this office at an institution that's been here for 1,000 years, and I'm gonna sell it, bro. I don't think we need it anymore. Pope Boniface the Eighth, who regularly interfered in the politics of neighboring kingdoms. So I guess he took a page out of Formosus's book there, and that one got him in a lot of trouble apparently.
I feel like Formosus is worse, or not Formosus, but Stephen the Second is worse. Sixth was worse than that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Keep it real.
Pope Pope Urban the Sixth, who tortured cardinals who had conspired against him, which I mean, as you do.
Oh, fuck them birds.
Yeah, right. Why is it always the sixth? Pope Alexander the Sixth, who, besides being openly promiscuous, was found guilty of nepotism. And I love how he makes the list of bad popes. That promiscuous and nepotism must have been bad. If
You're
he's on the
right.
same list with Stephen, and Benedict, who's trying to literally sell the popehood.
The dude who's fucking torturing cardinals and.
Yep. Which brings us to, I don't know, man. This one's pretty bad. Pope Leo the Tenth, who once spent 1/7 of the papal reserves on a single ceremony, which led to Martin Luther tacking the 95 Theses to the door of that church and sparking the entire Protestant Reformation. Just keep in mind, back then everybody was Catholic. There wasn't like the Baptists. Martin Luther started that. Why did Martin Luther start that? Because Pope Leo the Tenth spent 1/7 of the Vatican's money on one single party, one single ceremony. And Martin Luther was just like, nah, we can't do that. I just find that hilarious. That out of all of these 8 bad popes, that's the one that probably did them the most damage in the long run. Was just spending too much money on a party.
In terms of the
And then,
Catholic Church, I guess that is the worst, but I still feel like Stephen ranks higher than that. Like,
yeah, there's some weird
just in a
Jeffrey
broader
Dahmerness to his,
sense.
to his whole thing. And then Pope Clement the Seventh, and our last entry was Pope Clement the Seventh, whose power politicking once again led to the sack of Rome, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, that's pretty up there. I'll give
And so
him
I
that one.
really want to read that. I really want to read that book, dude, because I want to find out why the promiscuous nepotism guy is on the same list with these other, like, clearly should be incarcerated people.
Yeah, like he had to have been walking around just like swinging his dong around or something. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, fucking Lyndon Johnson in it. It's like I've got a hog, but yeah, because that dude was insane. Lyndon Johnson.
oh
Like I've
yeah.
heard accounts where he would just like pull his wiener out. But anyway, yeah, that's our history lesson for this week. Uh, it appears I'm coming back with another history lesson. This one's going to be way worse though. So, anything?
Yeah.
What you got going on, Jay?
I'm leaning in a historical direction myself. but it may not be a cohesive story and more of a collection of events that all have a similar theme to them. So,
Oh, that works. As long as it asks the question, you did this for why? I
I
think it all
definitely
qualifies.
will. Yes.
And so I don't know what my takeaways are from today's. Like, he was good at his job, maybe too good at his job, like enough to get haters. Because you know you got haters if they dig you up after you die.
You're right. Like,
You know, even gangster rappers don't do that.
they'll like kick over your candles at a vigil and shit. They're not gonna go dig you up though. Like,
No, it just seems like way too much work. But Steven was committed to it. Not only did he do it once, he did it twice.
then he threw his ass in the river.
And remember, Formosus got excommunicated once before, and then got back in, and then got excommunicated a second time, and then got back in. So he's like the lead belly of like the popes.
Yeah, by the way, I feel like if you get excommunicated from the church, that's supposed to mean like you don't come back. Granted,
That's
I'm
what
not
I thought.
I'm not
Too.
Catholic, so I could be wrong about that. But
I mean, I know people that have been fired and rehired from jobs, but it's also not the Pope.
yeah, right. I feel
So
like
I would feel like the rules should be slightly different for that. But I guess I'm finding out they're not.
it's like
At
impeaching
least not,
Nixon and then being like, "You want your job back?"
at least not back in like 897. You know what I mean? Which I still love Engelberger or whatever, just talking back to all the men folk back in like 872 or whatever. She's like, nah, I'm wearing pants, bitch. You know what I mean? Like, my pants are bigger than your pants. Fuck off. And then I'm just gonna have nightmares about Aggletree.
Oh yeah,
It
no.
sounds like a witch.
It sounds like the new Resident Evil, like fucking. She belongs in the Baker house in Resident Evil 7. Like that's
Yep, I could see that. So, all righty, gang, that's been interesting.
uh,
So,
as always, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. We're on Instagram at You Did This For Why Pod. Uh, you know, fucking. Also,
doing
if you're a
doing the
pope,
thing, man.
if you're a pope, I guess get like a
And
fucking iron collar or something,
yeah,
or
if
else you
you're a
will be
pope and
strangled
you're
to death.
listening to me, yeah, was it Leo the 14th? If you're listening to me, put on some Wu Tang. Please protect your neck. That's all I'm going to say about that. They're coming for it. History shows
Statistically speaking, you were more likely to be strangled than either of us.
that, and just for talking back to Donald Trump and being more powerful than Donald Trump, I ain't gonna let him dig you up, bro. That ain't happening on my watch.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
On that note, everybody have a great week, and we will catch you next week.